Again, everyone always has to think there's more to the story. Well, sometimes there's not. I've seen the autopsy report. So
I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Of course, it was wedged between the two giant Israeli bodyguards the whole way.
If you want security, the Israelis know what they're doing.
Exactly.
New footage has surfaced, and it's sending shockwaves online. It shows Charlie Kirk's security team in action, but instead of calming people down, it's raising even more questions. People are dissecting every second, wondering why certain reactions looked so strange and why everyone in that moment seemed so uneasy. But here's what's really odd. Through all the noise and confusion, one person has stayed unusually quiet about what went wrong that day: Erika Kirk. Her husband was seriously hurt, security was right there, and yet she hasn't said a word about the planning failures or the official response. Instead of pushing for accountability or demanding an explanation from the people in charge, Erika's frustration seems aimed somewhere else. At Candace Owens, at online commentators, at anyone daring to ask what most would call fair questions. Rather than searching for the truth behind the security breakdown, she's calling out those trying to connect the dots. And somehow the silence from her side is only making the situation look even more suspicious. Erika is now reportedly working alongside the very same security guard who was hired to protect Charlie. Yes, the same one who was on duty the day of the incident. That connection alone has people scratching their heads, yet strangely, hardly anyone is asking her about it. Why would she choose to align herself with the very team that failed to prevent what happened? Instead of opening up or addressing these concerns, Erika seems focused on getting everyone to stop digging deeper. She wants the public to accept the official explanation and move on. No questions, no analysis, just silence. She's doubling down on that message, pushing it hard, but there's still one issue she completely avoids: the security breakdown that occurred on September 10th.
You were the wife of somebody who literally was publicly executed, and there was a detail that was charged with providing security from them. Why, in what world, what reality would you ever be contracting those exact same security guards
Here's where things start to feel unsettling. The private security team that was supposed to keep Charlie safe has never been publicly questioned, not even as key witnesses. The media simply echoes official statements, yet there's no proof that these guards, the ones standing just feet away when it all happened, were ever interviewed in detail. How could that be? So who exactly are these men? Online sleuths have been piecing it together and found one name repeatedly popping up: Rick Cutler, a retired Texas officer with an impressive background: 6 years in the military, more than 3 decades in law enforcement, and over 2 decades in SWAT. He retired in 2019 and later moved to Guatemala, where he began training local emergency responders. But still, people can't stop asking, how did he end up here, tied to all this? There's actual footage confirming every detail of this, and on paper, Rick seems like the ultimate professional. His record looks spotless, with decades of service and elite training under his belt. But then when you start following the threads, things get a little more complicated. Rick currently works for an organization called United Rescue Alliance, which has collaborated with a religious outreach group known as Jews for Jesus. They believe Yeshua was the original name of Jesus. Rick even has a large Yeshua tattoo on his forearm. Before that, he was part of a missionary relief group called Iris Relief, and a 2019 post confirmed his retirement from law enforcement before relocating to Guatemala. So here we have a man with strong spiritual ties and international connections. Nothing suspicious on its own.
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
You retired after 30 years with the Irving, Texas Police Department, and you were a supervisor. 22 years of that was in SWAT. And prior to that, you had 6 years with the U.S. Army Military Police, active duty and reserves.
I had never planned to retire early, but circumstances in my life led to an opportunity to come to Guatemala and be in the mission field.
But it definitely paints an intriguing picture once you line up the timeline. What really caught people's attention came right after the tragic shooting. On September 11th, the very next day, Rick's brother posted on Facebook, mentioning that his sibling worked for the same private security company used by both Charlie Kirk and Riley Gaines during their Utah events. That overlap immediately raised eyebrows. Then came the viral footage, the moment Rick is seen crouching over Charlie right after the incident. Some viewers claim he appears to be smiling in that moment, and naturally, the internet exploded with questions. People couldn't make sense of it. Why that reaction, and what did it mean? Still, it's important to note Rick wasn't the only one there that day. Several guards were involved in the operation, including another name that's drawn attention. Brian Harpo, founder of Integrity Security Solutions, the firm that handled security for Charlie's event on September 10th. And according to Candace Owens, Brian reportedly attended a high-level military meeting just 2 days before everything went down. The coincidences are stacking up fast, and people are definitely paying attention. The most startling detail came from a man reportedly in witness protection. And if that tip turns out to be real, it's one unbelievable coincidence. But from here, things only get murkier. Brian supposedly claimed that drones were banned at UVU, but that doesn't line up with what TPUSA's own Frank Torque said. According to Frank, Charlie actually viewed drone footage while on his way to campus. So what's the truth here? Were drones really off limits, or was Charlie watching surveillance footage from one just hours before the shooting? The contradictions are piling up fast. Now, in the video from that day, you can clearly see Brian standing right over Charlie after the incident. At one point, he seems to grab something, then quickly passes it to two other men, one in a light blue plaid shirt, the other dressed in black.
Sees about 12 lieutenant colonels. He tells me, you do not see that many people, that many E4s, E5s, E6s. Please, military guys, forgive me for me not knowing what the proper vernacular. But he just goes, well, what's going on? He's like, you don't see this unless you're at the Pentagon or you're at the White House. He sees that the person that is with him, and he said, certain that the person that is with him is...
But what exactly did he hand them, and why? No one seems willing to give a straight answer. Then there's Dan Flood and Justin Davis, two more names that keep surfacing. Both reportedly worked for Schaffer Security Group, a firm founded by retired FBI agent Greg Schaffer. That same company handled protection for TPUSA up until 2022. But something shifted that year. Dan Flood and Brian Harpo left Schaffer together, formed their own company called Integrity Security Solutions, and immediately took over the same contract. Basically, the same men guarding Charlie under one company just rebranded and continued under another. And here's the part that's sending chills through people online. In the footage, Dan Flood can be seen wearing sunglasses, standing right beside Charlie. Just seconds before the shot rings out, he appears to make a quick hand signal. Whether it meant anything or not, viewers can't stop replaying that moment, trying to figure out what really happened in those few critical seconds. After that moment in the footage where Dan Flood makes that subtle hand signal, the internet went wild. People began slowing down the clip, zooming in, analyzing frame by frame. Everyone wanted to know what that signal meant. Was it just a coincidence, a reflex, or something more calculated? No one could say for sure, but the silence from the people involved only deepened the mystery. When you think about it, the whole setup surrounding that day seems strange from the very start. The event at UVU wasn't supposed to be chaotic. It was marketed as a controlled, high-security appearance, the kind of thing where every step, every movement was tightly managed. Yet somehow within minutes, everything spiraled into confusion. The guards looked disorganized, communication broke down, and the crowd had no idea what was happening. For a team filled with former law enforcement and military experience, it didn't make sense. Witnesses say the security formation shifted moments before the shot, almost like someone gave a quiet order.
If the area lies in the Provo, Utah airspace, I can't fly it. It's a 107B. We can't break the rules.
People who were there claimed that several guards stepped away from their assigned zones at the worst possible time. One woman who attended said she saw two men move from their post just seconds before the chaos. It's hard not to wonder, was that part of a routine adjustment or something more deliberate? Meanwhile, Erika's behavior after the event keeps drawing scrutiny. She's still connected to the same circle of people responsible for that day's protection plan, even as the public continues asking why there's been no clear accountability. Instead of pressing for answers, she's appeared defensive, claiming that online investigators are making things worse. Yet those same investigators are the only ones uncovering details that official sources never mentioned. It's as if the louder the questions get, the quieter the people closest to the situation become. The FBI's official timeline is another sticking point. Reports claim that everything happened within seconds, that Charlie was struck, evacuated, and stabilized almost immediately. But those who have reviewed the footage say that timeline doesn't match what's visible on camera. There are gaps, small confusing stretches of time where nobody seems to know what's going on. In those missing moments, several guards appear to move out of frame, and by the time they reappear, the scene has already changed completely. Then there's the matter of Integrity Security Solutions. Formed by Flood and Harpo right before taking over the TPUSA contract, this company has virtually no digital footprint before 2022. That's unusual for a professional security firm. No clear list of employees, no public contact information, not even a standard business website, just a state registration and a few scattered references on social media. For an organization handling protection at major political and university events, that's downright bizarre. Some have suggested that Integrity was simply a rebrand, a way to start fresh after Schaffer Security Group stepped away. But others think it's stranger than that. Why start a new company under two of the same men, keeping the same clients, the same routes, and even the same uniforms?
Anyway, on our way in, we had drone footage of the crowd building. And Charlie had it on his phone. I said, Charlie, I don't like this place. There are too many buildings.
It feels less like a business transition and more like an effort to shift visibility. And Candace Owens stirred the pot even more when she brought up that military meeting 2 days before everything happened. She didn't accuse anyone of wrongdoing, but the timing raised questions. Why were security contractors at a defense-related event so close to the incident? And what kind of meeting was it? Those details have never been released to the public, and the lack of transparency fuels even more speculation. Meanwhile, some former security professionals have started weighing in anonymously online. A few claim that the body language in the footage doesn't look like standard response protocol. In a real emergency, the priority would be immediate evacuation and perimeter control, yet the guards appear frozen, confused, some even looking at each other instead of reacting to the threat. That hesitation has become one of the most replayed moments in the entire investigation. There's also talk about the communication devices seen that day. Multiple guards had earpieces, but when slowed down, no one appears to be speaking into them during the key moments of chaos. Either communication was lost or there was some kind of interference. Both major failures for a private team hired specifically for safety. And if equipment malfunctioned, why hasn't anyone publicly confirmed it? That silence speaks volumes. Adding to the confusion, drone footage from earlier that morning reportedly captured aerial shots of the venue, something that contradicts claims that drones were banned. If that's true, who authorized those flights? And why was that footage being shown to Charlie on his way to campus as mentioned by Frank Torks? The idea that surveillance technology was active yet no one caught a threat feels impossible to some analysts. By late September, online researchers had compiled timelines, video overlays, and even 3D renderings trying to piece together the exact sequence of events. The patterns they highlight, the hand signal, the positioning, the missing seconds, all raise uncomfortable questions about how something like this could happen under supposedly top-tier protection. Still, mainstream coverage stays cautious. Major outlets repeat only the official statements, rarely touching on these inconsistencies. But in digital spaces, the conversation is relentless. People keep asking the same thing. If this was a professional operation gone wrong, why hasn't anyone been held responsible? Why hasn't the full unedited footage been released to the public? And most importantly, why does Erika continue to trust and work alongside the very individuals tied to that day's confusion? As time passes, the silence becomes its own statement. Those close to the situation seem to believe that ignoring the questions will make them fade, but the internet doesn't forget. Every clip, every frame, every second of that footage is now archived, analyzed, and debated by thousands who refuse to let the story disappear. For many, this isn't just about one tragic moment. It's about what happens when truth and accountability get buried under polished statements and selective silence. People don't want drama, they want clarity. And until that clarity comes, the shadow of September 10th will continue to hang over everyone involved, unanswered and unresolved. As weeks passed, the questions only multiplied and silence became the loudest sound of all. Every time someone tried to bring new evidence forward, it was quickly brushed aside or labeled as misinformation. Yet the details just didn't add up. The footage, the shifting stories, and the sudden disappearances of people involved all kept the public guessing and frustrated. Observers noticed that several names connected to the event slowly vanished from social media. Accounts that once shared behind-the-scenes photos, location tags, or security updates went completely dark. Even the LinkedIn pages for Integrity Security Solutions personnel either disappeared or became private overnight. That kind of digital cleanup usually doesn't happen unless someone wants to avoid scrutiny, and that's exactly what it looked like. Meanwhile, Erika's public appearances started feeling strange. When she finally did speak, her focus wasn't on security or accountability, it was on moving forward. She insisted that people stop spreading conspiracy theories even though no one had seen the full investigation results yet. Her critics argued that she was shutting down discussion instead of demanding transparency, but her supporters claimed she was just trying to protect her family's peace. Whatever her motive, her tone made one thing clear. She wanted this story buried, not dissected. Reporters who tried to follow up with local authorities hit a wall. Every inquiry was met with the same line: "The investigation is ongoing." But months later, that line hadn't changed. No progress updates, no public hearing, no statement about the role of Integrity Security Solutions or the men involved. In the absence of facts, speculation filled the vacuum. And that made the mystery grow even larger. Some people pointed to a strange series of contract renewals that happened right after the event. Integrity Security Solutions allegedly signed new deals to handle multiple university events within weeks of the incident. That raised eyebrows. Why would a firm under scrutiny for a major security breakdown be rewarded with more work? To the public, it felt like damage control disguised as business as usual. Others started digging into the timeline between Schaffer Security Group stepping away and Integrity taking over. The gap was shockingly short, less than 2 weeks according to public filings. That meant there was hardly any time for vetting, background checks, or training new hires. Everything looked rushed, like someone wanted the transition finished before anyone noticed. And then there was the footage itself. Multiple versions began circulating online. Cropped clips, blurred frames, short edits that seemed to cut off right before critical moments. Viewers comparing them side by side realized some details didn't match. One version showed a guard moving across the stage seconds before the shot. Another version didn't show that movement at all. Why were there different cuts? Who edited them? The more people tried to piece the timeline together, the more inconsistencies they found. Behind closed doors, insiders reportedly began whispering about tension among the security team members. Some claimed that certain individuals had been warned not to speak to journalists, while others said NDAs were enforced immediately after the incident. That alone raised major ethical questions. How can a tragedy tied to public safety be treated like a private corporate secret? It didn't sit right with anyone watching closely. Even more puzzling was the behavior of federal investigators. Usually in such cases, they'd hold a press briefing or release at least a partial statement confirming witness interviews, but that never happened. Not a single confirmation about the guards being questioned or cleared was made public. Every update seemed filtered, polished, and oddly neutral, like someone wanted to drain the emotion out of the narrative entirely. Meanwhile, the online community kept doing what it does best: digging. Digital investigators tracked down archived footage, satellite maps, even thermal drone imagery from nearby law enforcement training sites. Some of the data lined up disturbingly well with the event location and timing. It didn't prove anything sinister, but it did raise another chilling possibility: that surveillance data existed and simply wasn't being shared. By now, the silence wasn't protecting anyone. It was fueling suspicion. Every missing file, every deleted post, every unanswered question made people believe there was something being hidden. And the more Erika tried to pivot to healing and unity, the more people saw that as deflection rather than closure. To this day, what really happened behind those security lines remains unclear. The official reports have yet to explain why certain guards acted the way they did, or why the footage appears edited. Integrity Security Solutions continues to operate quietly without addressing the controversy that still circles them. And Erika, who once stood in front of cameras demanding accountability for others, now avoids the topic altogether. What's undeniable is that the public hasn't moved on. The footage keeps resurfacing, the theories keep evolving, and the calls for transparency keep growing louder. Whether or not answers ever come, the strange silence surrounding that day has become a story of its own, one filled with gaps, contradictions, and uneasy truths that refuse to fade away. Maybe it really is nothing. Maybe that quick movement was just a nervous tick or a reflex under pressure, but somehow it's the smallest gestures that set off the biggest storms. That tiny moment, that brief hand signal, became the spark that's still fueling endless conversations online. And here's where things take a jaw-dropping turn. That same man, Dan Flood, is now reportedly providing personal security for Erika Kirk. Think about that for a second. The very person who was standing next to Charlie moments before everything went wrong is now protecting his widow. When you line everything up, The pattern feels impossible to ignore. You've got a security team full of questionable coincidences, overlapping connections, and reactions that simply don't make sense for trained professionals. Nobody's saying there's solid proof of wrongdoing, but these circumstances have raised some serious, legitimate questions that still don't have clear answers, and the silence from those involved only makes the public more suspicious. People keep asking, why hasn't anyone in authority addressed these red flags? Why haven't the key security personnel, the ones closest to Charlie in those crucial seconds, been publicly questioned or cleared? Usually after something like this, there would be full reports, timelines, even follow-up statements. But here, nothing. Just vague phrases like, the investigation is ongoing. Months later, that's all anyone has heard. And yet somehow Erika has continued to work with the same people who were part of the original security setup. That's what really has the internet buzzing, the optics of it all. For a woman whose husband was hurt under their watch, you'd expect some distance, at least publicly. Instead, she's appearing alongside them, trusting them again, as though none of this controversy ever existed. Her critics see that as tone-deaf, even bizarre, while her supporters say she's trying to stay calm and grounded during chaos. But regardless of which side you're on, it's hard not to notice how her actions contradict the questions everyone else is asking. Meanwhile, the official narrative feels frozen in time. The authorities haven't clarified what went wrong with communication that day. They haven't explained the missing seconds in the footage or the shifting positions of the guards. They haven't confirmed whether the alleged drone footage was real or fake. The public has been left filling in the blanks, and that's exactly how conspiracy theories grow. Every unanswered question creates space for 10 new ones, and those who try to dig deeper face backlash fast. Some online researchers claim they've been flagged, shadow banned, or even contacted by anonymous sources warning them to back off. Whether those stories are real or exaggerated, they've only added to the unease surrounding this case. The idea that people are being told not to investigate feels just as unsettling as the event itself. The strangest part is that none of this had to spiral like it did. If the key players, Erika, the FBI, and the private security firms, had just come forward early on with transparency, things might have settled down. But that never happened. Instead, there's been deflection, silence, and talk about moving on. And as history shows, when the public senses a cover-up, they never move on quietly. So here we are, a team of guards with overlapping connections, two companies with blurred boundaries, and a widow who seems determined to silence the very discussion that might clear her name. It's a story with more questions than answers, and that's exactly why people can't stop talking about it. Every time someone says, let it go, another clue surfaces, another clip gets analyzed, and another inconsistency appears. It's not about blaming anyone, it's about clarity. If this was truly just a tragic chain of events, then why not lay it all out openly? Why keep the most basic facts hidden? That's what keeps everyone suspicious. It's not the theories, it's the silence. Will Erika succeed in shutting down the conversation, or will the pressure finally force the truth out? Because the more people are told to stop asking questions, the louder those questions get. You can try to bury curiosity, but it always finds its way back to the surface, and that's exactly what's happening now. The internet refuses to let this go. At the end of the day, we're left staring at an unsettling reality. A security team with too many convenient links, a widow working closely with the same men who couldn't protect her husband, and an official narrative that feels more like a wall than an explanation. Does that sit right with anyone? Because it sure doesn't for most watching this unfold. This story has left behind a trail of silence, contradictions, and confusion. And maybe that's the biggest clue of all. If nothing was wrong, why hide anything? Why stay quiet? Until those answers come out, people will keep asking, debating, and uncovering more. And maybe that's exactly what needs to happen, because truth doesn't disappear just because someone says, stop looking. Let me know what you think in the comments. Does any of this sound normal to you? Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more updates, share this video with your friends, and drop your thoughts below. I want to hear what you believe really happened. See you on the next one.